AI. You hear about it everywhere, right? It's the buzzword that's supposed to change everything. But behind all the headlines and all the hype, what is it really? Okay, let's cut through the noise and get a simple, clear definition that actually makes sense.
So let me ask you a question. What if I told you?
That those apps you scroll through on your phone every single day aren't just simple tools?
What if I told you they're actually systems that are constantly learning from you and using what they learn to predict what you'll do next? Well, that right there is the reality of artificial intelligence in our lives today.
Okay, so our first job here is to move past the whole sci-fi movie idea, the talking robots and the technological magic. We need to cut right through all that hype to see what's actually going on. Look, for most of us, when we hear the term AI, our brain pretty much jumps to one of two things: a robot from a movie, or these days, ChatGPT. And yeah, those are part of the story, but they are so not the whole picture.
The truth is, AI is already kind of a silent partner in your day-to-day life. It's the engine recommending your next Netflix binge. It's the algorithm deciding what Amazon thinks you should buy. It's even the system that filters which news you see on social media. It's already influencing huge parts of your life. So, how can one technology do all of that? Well, it turns out there's one single, really powerful idea that explains pretty much everything. It's all about changing how you think about it. Don't think of AI as an artificial brain. Instead, think of it as a prediction machine.
And this is where you see the huge difference. We humans, we're driven by understanding and context. We want to know why things happen. AI, it doesn't work that way. It's an absolute rock star at finding patterns and playing the odds. Its whole job is to figure out what is most likely to happen next.
And this right here is probably the most important thing to get from this entire explainer. If you remember one thing, make it this. AI doesn't think, it predicts. It's not sitting there pondering the meaning of life. It's just a massive calculator, figuring out the most probable outcome based on all the data it's ever seen.
So that thing that feels like magic, it's really just pattern recognition on a scale that is, well, it's impossible for our brains to even comprehend. It's sifting through billions of data points, finding tiny connections we would never ever see, and then using those connections to make a prediction.
Okay, so if it's not magic, how does it actually work? I mean, how do you get from just a giant pile of data to a smart decision or a creative answer? Let's break down the process.
It's really just a four-step process. First, you need data. And not just a little, you need a massive amount. Second, you train the system. You just let these algorithms chew on that data to find all the hidden patterns. Third, that system becomes what we call a model. And finally, you use that model for something called inference, which is just a fancy word for asking it to make a prediction on new stuff it's never seen before.
And here's a really simple way to think about it. If I say the sky is, your brain immediately fills in blue, right? You didn't do a scientific study, you've just recognized that pattern thousands of times. A language model like ChatGPT does the exact same thing. It's just that its memory is basically the entire internet. It's just predicting the most probable next word. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, if these ideas aren't brand new, why does it feel like AI just exploded out of nowhere? Well, it turns out it was basically a perfect storm. Yep, a perfect storm. Three huge things all happened at once. First, thanks to the internet and smartphones, we suddenly had an unimaginable amount of data. That's the fuel. Second, we got way more powerful computer chips, these things called GPUs. That's the engine. And third, our algorithms just got a whole lot smarter, especially with something called deep learning. So let's quickly clear up some terms you hear all the time. Artificial intelligence, or AI. That's the big one. It's the whole giant field dedicated to making machines do tasks that seem intelligent.
Now, inside that giant field is machine learning. This is the main way we do AI today. Instead of programming a computer with a million if-then rules, you just show it a ton of data and let it learn the rules for itself.
And then, as a subset of that, you have deep learning. This is the really powerful stuff. It uses these complex structures called neural networks to find even more subtle patterns. This is the engine behind all the craziest breakthroughs you're seeing, from ChatGPT to all that AI art. Okay, so we get the idea. We get how it works, but now we get to the most important part. What does all this incredible power, and its very real limits, actually mean for us in the real world?
This is so important to keep in mind. AI is not foolproof. It can give you an answer that sounds perfectly correct, but is completely wrong. It doesn't have any real human-like understanding. And, crucially, it's a garbage-in, garbage-out system. The quality of its predictions depends completely on the quality of the data it was trained on.
But even with those limitations, its impact is, well, it's undeniable. It's already changing jobs through automation. It's kicking off a whole new era of AI-generated creativity. And it's getting baked into how major decisions are made by companies and even governments. This isn't some far-off future trend. This is happening right now. And this brings us to what might be the best way to think about its impact on our careers. The big fear is always that AI is going to replace humans. But a better way to look at it might be that the real shift is in the skills we need. The advantage is going to go to the people who understand this tool and know how to use it. So let's bring it all home. The next time you hear someone talking about AI, I want you to forget the sci-fi robots. Instead, just remember this simple, powerful formula. You start with data, you use it to find patterns, and you use those patterns to make predictions. That is the engine of modern AI.
And here's the cool thing. Just by understanding that simple loop, you've cut through the hype. You're already ahead of most people. You see the mechanics behind the magic. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you have this clarity, what are you going to do with that advantage?